Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining Crank Software's Inside the GUI series. As part of our customer case study sessions, today we're talking about an example of a GUI product that you may have seen in your day-to-day lives, the Freestyle beverage dispenser from Coca-Cola. To level up their dispensing game, Coca-Cola decided to use Crank Storyboard to support the development of this revolutionary new interface. Joining me today to discuss this project are Brian Edmond, President and VP of Professional Services, and Matt Love, Applications Architect at Crank Software. Good day, gentlemen.
Hey, Roy, nice to meet you.
Great to have you here. So Brian, we'll start with you first as kind of the head of the project and the head of professional services at Crank Software. Can you provide our audience a quick overview of the Coca-Cola project and what we did to support them?
Yeah, so the Coca-Cola Freestyle machine, a bit of background on that. So that is a beverage dispensing machine that you may have seen in movie theaters or other restaurants and such, that really has an LCD and allows a user to pick well over 100 drinks, everything from different combinations to diet and regular sodas. And the user can pick the experience they want and move through it that way. They're also highly configurable, so the drinks need to change based on the deployment. And they really wanted to modernize the look and feel of the UI and give you that experience. And also integration with third-party apps so that you could customize the experience as you walk up to the device and really make it yours and your own personal drinks. Our engagement was really to help them modernize the UI. It had an existing interface that they wanted to make more like a cell phone or modern tablet, have lots of animation and experience, and really pull the consumer in. And Storyboard was a great solution for that.
That's great, Brian. And Matt, from your perspective, since you're more on the technical side, can you describe a little bit about what you did for the project for Coca-Cola, including any sort of integration and programming work that you did with Storyboard?
Sure. So our original engagement with Coke was really to assist them with building a modern UI for their existing platform. Their original solution, they hit some limitations with it, but we were able to port Storyboard to that platform. And we were able to kind of get past those limitations. Once that was done, we built their new design the way they would like. We had it working with dynamic layouts and animations, something I had issues with previously. And then I had done both the UI development and their hardware integration with their existing backend C program. Well, it was C++, but anyway. Then beyond that, once that was done, we pitched on porting that to their new platform that was in development, and we were able to get the new UI ported and integrated with their new hardware within a few weeks. Can't remember the exact time frame, but it was within 4 to 6 weeks, if I remember correctly. So.
Yeah, that's great, Matt, and that's brings up a point, Brian, that it'd be good if you could touch on that. I would guess that a lot of development teams, when they start their projects, they're kind of focused in on the one GUI that they're building. How often do you see, and then what types of things should these teams consider in terms of scaling or moving to new platforms in the future?
Yeah, as we always know, once you build your user interface, it's never built just once, and it's never be to fully specification. Things change over time quite frequently. Whether it's a design, the hardware platform they're running on, the experience and layouts. So we always want to keep in mind that you build early on with the ability to change and adapt quickly. And that's something that really Storyboard brings in and allows us to build a cross-platform UI that really embraces the change and the iterations that you'll have on the interface, allows them to integrate new features easily, add animations and effects, and really scale the platform across. And it's good to keep that in mind early on and never lock yourself into a single design, but build with expandability in mind.
Right, and Matt, we had talked before about some of the pain points that you had encountered and helped Coca-Cola solve on the project. Can you discuss those and help our audience understand what you did?
Well, the first pain point was that their existing solution had some limitations that they weren't able to exceed. So Storyboard was able to help them there because we could get past the problems they were having on their existing hardware. But then the second problem that they would have in the future was they had multiple product lines that used different hardware, and they weren't going to be able to port their existing UI to these future platforms, but Storyboard's easily ported. We were able to have a modified version of the same UI running on two different platforms with different software stacks, and it reduced the level of effort needed to maintain these UI applications.
Right, and can you what was the most technically interesting thing for you, Matt, about the project?
There's a decent amount of dynamic layout and animations that had to be done. At the time, that was kind of the more interesting thing we did. Later on, when we got into some of the cloud integration and allowing the user to upload their own sort of favorite drinks and drink combinations, that kind of added to it, because now we had to build fairly complicated controls with all these sub-controls within them, and it all had to animate nice and smoothly. And that was a little bit of a challenge, even though it was only a single screen of their entire UI. But
no, it's really cool. And we only have about a minute left here, so we'll bring it back up to the business level for you, Brian. You know, from a leader perspective, a development team leader perspective, and you know, a lot of our customers were talking about teams of 5 or more developers. If you were talking to these leaders, what advice would you have for them for projects that they're working on this year for their GUI development?
Well, when you're looking at a tool or any software stack for GUI development, make sure you look at something that allows the ability to embrace change. Things will always change. Even the best specification laid will always change, especially once you put it in the hands of consumers and it comes in. So you really want to embrace that early on for your development team, so you don't get locked into a design and then have to backtrack and delay all your schedules based on that.
Right, and Matt, from your perspective, from a technical perspective, what advice do you have for developers working on similar GUI projects as this Coca-Cola one?
I would probably say consider the various resolutions you're going to be running at and make sure that your application logic and design can scale. You don't want to get to the point where you have to redesign a completely different UI because your aspect ratio changes slightly or something with your design doesn't allow you to go from platform to platform or display to display.
Great, excellent. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Brian. Really appreciate your insights in this interview today. Obviously, the key takeaway for this project is that Coca-Cola had a vision. They also had a need to penetrate the marketplace in a way that they hadn't done before, and you came to Crank and used Crank Storyboard to do that. For anyone's interested in trying out Crank Storyboard for yourself, you can try our free trial at cranksoftware.com. Thanks again, Matt and Brian. For everyone else, enjoy the rest of Embedded World.